Hello and welcome to another episode of the Lit Lotus podcast. This is a community where we love, we inspire, and we thrive together. We are lit. I am your host, Melinda Van Kirk, and if you've never joined me before, well, welcome. This podcast is for caretakers, healers, spiritual beings who are seeking holistic health alternatives for mind, body, and spiritual health. A little bit about me. I'm a spiritual lifestyle, health, and wellness coach. And I also teach yoga. I'm a Reiki master. So you can learn all the things that I do if you head on over to my webpage. It's litlotus.me. And you can also check out my social. I have a YouTube channel as well as Instagram and all the things. Go over to my Linktree. It's also Linktree/litlotus. And I hope to see you there. So let's get straight to today's podcast episode. Today we are talking about how to manifest better health using the law of attraction and the law of allowing. Now, some of you might be fully invested in this whole concept of the law of attraction. Some of you might be like, that's ridiculous. There's no science behind it, which is not true, by the way. But regardless, we're not going to go into all the science today. I just want you to kind of open your mind to the possibility of how we can use the law of attraction to help us manifest better well-being. It can be your mental health, your physical health. It can be your financial health. It can be relationship health. You can use these principles in any area of your life, and it still applies. And it's really not so far out there. Now, if you're totally woo-woo and in on it, great. It can be far out there as you want it to be. If you are somebody that's like, I need facts and science and this isn't reality, we can provide that information, or just do some Googling on the internet. You will find actually a whole lot of information about the science behind it. So there's a psychology behind it. And I personally believe there's quantum physics kind of supporting some of these ideas. So basically the law of attraction is saying what you give your attention to is what transpires. So it's what happens. It's how we create and manifest. And this is certainly a very simple principle in terms of when we see it in a physical way. So an example would be, I want to be a doctor. I give my attention to that. I focus on my studies. I go to school for that. I do my internships and residency, and I'm a doctor. Okay. Obviously there's many steps there, but you can spend many years focusing your attention and the outcome is there. So that's not so far-fetched, right? But this is true in areas of your life that maybe you think this will never happen. Like, I want to manifest a perfect mate for me. Or I want to manifest the perfect weight for myself. I want to feel healthy in my body. And so a lot of times we think we're focusing on our desires, which we are, but we're also focusing on the flip side of that coin, right? We're not just focusing on heads all the time. We often end up focusing on tails. So an example of this would be, if I want to find my perfect weight and I want to manifest this, all right, so you might have all these thoughts on how to do it, a million hows, right? Well, there's this diet and there's this program and there's this way to eat and this person did this and I saw this ad on YouTube and they were saying to try this and I can take these supplements and the list goes on and on and on, right? We're infiltrated with information around this. But what I'd like you to think about is you're thinking on all the hows and you're not really focusing on what you want out of this. So why do you want to lose the weight? Well, I'm going to feel good in my body. Okay, we're going to expand on that. So you want to start making a list of like, what are the whys around this thing that you want to create in your life? Maybe you're having issues like pre-diabetic. Okay, I want to feel better in my body and avoid this disease that my family has. Great. All right, so if I lose weight, this is going to help me just feel good when I go out. Feel youthful, feel lighter, feel more energized. Okay, so you're going down the list and you're saying all the whys about why you want this thing to transpire. And that's the magic that we're sprinkling in to help you manifest your desire. Now, the flip side of this coin then is when you're focusing on what you don't have or the resistance to why you can't make changes. All right, these are the excuses that we give ourselves. We know these really well. I don't have time to cook for myself. Or it would just be easier if ... fill in the blank. if somebody would cook for me, or if my husband was on board with this, or if my friends didn't like to go out and out to eat and drink all the time, right? So there's a million ifs. It would just be easier if. Or I don't have this thing, I've never been this thin, this weight doesn't feel realistic for me, or I put on weight 20 years ago and there's no way I'm losing it, it's because I had the baby. That's a big excuse. It's because I had kids. Or I'm in menopause now and it's too hard to lose weight after menopause. Or I can't be healthy in my body as I age. It's too hard. I've heard too many scientific things about this and that and this and that. I've heard too many stories. And so what you're really doing then is you're focusing on the negative, the flip side of that coin, and you're not allowing your mental reset. You're not allowing these things to transpire. You're actually supporting your limiting beliefs by focusing on those negative emotions. And it's really easy to do. And we kind of harp in on each other's conversations about this. A good example is, someone starts saying, I can't afford that. I can't go out to eat here. Oh yeah, this is expensive. And I'm just as guilty of this as the next person. I got into a big conversation around the cost of groceries lately and how expensive groceries are. And I am focusing on the negative. I'm focusing on the lack. I don't have the money to pay for these groceries because they're too expensive. Instead of focusing on, well, what do I really want? Well, actually, I don't mind spending more money on these groceries because these are more nourishing and healthier for my body than if I went to get fast food, right? So then I start to think about, well, why do I want to spend more money on groceries? Or why do I go to this store to shop knowing it's more expensive? Well, because they have more variety. They have more organic foods. They have so much produce that's beautiful and delicious. And then I start focusing on the good things and I start to say, oh my God, I'm really grateful that I can find the money to pay for these groceries that are so much more nourishing for me. So it's starting to retrain our brains and rewrite stories around all of those limiting beliefs. And I know I've talked about this a lot, and I'm going to continue talking about this. I'm really, really passionate about this. And I've seen it in my own body. When I'm not losing weight, or I'm stagnant, or even gaining weight. And I really have to look at what is out of alignment. And it's usually multiple things. And it's when you're not feeling your best. And when you're not feeling your best. When you're not feeling your best, this is an indicator that you're out of alignment or out of integrity with your desire. Those negative emotions. So when you're focusing on the lack, I don't have money, or groceries are really expensive now, or it's just too hard for me to lose the weight since I had a baby, or I'm too old now, I'm just going to be overweight and become diabetic. We start telling ourselves these stories about how it is instead of focusing on well, why do you want that thing? What do you get out of that? And then when you switch and you pivot and you start to think about the flip side of the coin, you can start to pivot your emotions. And as you move into the realm of possibility and you start to feel optimistic, that is going to move you into this vortex of creation, if you will, the vortex around you. When you start to feel gratitude and love and excitement and joy around it, that's really when you're the creator. That's when you're powerful. When you're stuck in the old stories that get in our heads, it's time to start kind of focusing on, noticing the resistance first off, because this is your indicator that you're not allowing. So we often hear about the law of attraction. There's something else called the law of allowing. And when we're not in integrity with our highest self, our joyful, loving, grateful self, that's an indicator that there's resistance somewhere in your life along the way. And if you feel like that next step is so far off and you can't get there, you need to come back to what is your next desire? I would love to have $1 million in the bank account tomorrow. The reality is, for me right now, I don't believe that's going to happen. It could happen, right? Somebody could leave me $1 million, or I don't even know. I could go viral and all of a sudden I'm making all this money, right? So it can totally happen. But it feels pretty far out of the realm of possibility for me. So it's this process of what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? Example around weight. And this is a good example for me because it was more recent. I put on a few pounds And I knew some things were out of alignment with how I was eating. I wasn't eating terribly. I was still cooking for myself, but I had a lot of add-ons, a lot of cheese and crackers, snacks after dinner, like kind of part of my dinner, but like dessert was kind of bigger than maybe it should have been, right? And I could just feel I was out of integrity with my body. I knew this wasn't the right thing, and yet I kept doing, or like a lot of eggs and bread and things that they're fine sometimes, but it was kind of like every day because it's quick and easy. And so I had to sort of take a step back and notice, one, like I didn't want to get on the scale because I was pissed at myself for putting on a few pounds. And my pants are all tight now, and I'm like, damn it. And I'm sure we all know that feeling, right? The pants get too tight or whatever, the shirt gets too tight. You're like, oh shit, I just put on some pounds and now I have to get on the scale and face the reality in front of me. So one, I have to kind of make friends with the number that's there and say, even before I get on the scale, like, whatever's there is okay because it's not my new reality. It's not where I'm heading. I don't need to keep going up and up and up. And so I get on the scale and I'm like, okay, I'm up 5 pounds. That's not where I want to be. We can do this. But 5 pounds for me feels really challenging sometimes. And there's like a threshold, and I think we all know this, right? There's like a magic number in your mind that you want to be. And the number is just a number. In reality, what I really want is my pants to fit well and feel good in my body. But I start going through the whys and, okay, why do I want to lose weight? Okay, pants are tight. I don't want to have to buy a new wardrobe. My belly feels bloated. I'm feeling out of integrity with my body. I'm not feeling 100%. So there's all these good reasons why that number is there. And I know at this weight, this magic number, maybe I'd like to be a little bit under that, but the magic number is the magic number. Like, that feels good, and that's usually where I'd like to be around to feel balanced and healthy and my pants fit well, okay? So you give it a little bit more of a objective perspective, right? Okay, here's the number, here's where I want to be. Yes, this is all the reasons why. And then I noticed I was still resisting, and I go on vacation and I eat terribly for the most part on vacation, drinks every day, just know I feel awful in my body. I'm starting to have hot flashes, all these things. The body's going way out of whack, and I can feel it. And I'm like, okay, we're going to get back. We're going to go on a cleanse. Well, it's probably another good week or two till I actually did the cleanse. And the number really hadn't changed that much from where I was at prior to vacation, but I was just feeling like super out of alignment, and the negative thoughts were coming up like, oh, it's so hard once I'm over this number. It's so hard to lose weight. How did I get here? I haven't put on weight in years. And you start telling yourself all these stories, right? And I am creating my own resistance. I'm not allowing myself to recognize what's going to be the best for me. I'm not allowing that intuitive self to come in. And, I wasn't looking for all the things out there because I've been down that path many times. But I think a lot of us would start going, oh, this diet, and this diet, and this diet, and this diet. That's the only way I can lose weight. But I know in my heart that's not true. And so much of it is about making that mental shift to start making progress in the right direction. And so I asked myself what I wanted my cleanse to look like and how was that going to feel for me. And I made some hard decisions, like I'm going to not have caffeine except maybe green tea, but no coffee, no creamer in my coffee in the morning. So maybe I should be more specific. No caffeine, but decaf without creamer, I was going to be okay with. So I was setting it up sort of what felt good for me, right? So you can go all in on a cleanse, you can go halfway in, and then breakfast was very light. I found a detox smoothie recipe. I was like, I'm doing that every day. Simple, easy, healthy. I started a couple supplements. I kept those up. And I was feeling really good in the morning. Nice and light. And occasionally I would have grains or with some fruit, right? So it wasn't like I was cutting out everything. I wasn't using any sugar, but I was using like honey and maple syrup for my quote unquote sugar. But I said no sugar this week at all. No chocolate. That was hard. And it wasn't to be super restrictive. It was to say, I'm going to do this for 5 days and see how I feel when I'm done. And go down this journey of observation. And then that observation brought me back into integrity. I didn't weigh myself the whole week. I knew what I was before I started the cleanse. And I spent 5 days pretty restrictive, but I still made really good foods, right? I had some kitcheries, I had a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, I had some green juices. Like I had my detox smoothie every morning with a piece of fruit. I was feeling really freaking good by the end of the week. And I was like, I'm proud of me for doing what I needed to do. And if I was hungry after a meal, I'd just have like a small handful of nuts or something, right? Something that was a little more sustaining. And I was feeling so good. I was feeling light. And at the end of the cleanse, I'm like, okay, we're getting on the scale. And I was envisioning a number and I was actually slightly under it. It was only about 3 pounds, but I thought, I don't know if I'll make this number, but I'm going to allow it because 3 pounds felt believable with the cleanse, right? It felt like this weight could come off and the bloating could go away and my digestion could reset. All those things are things I wanted to manifest with this cleanse. So I let down the resistance and I made choices. I took actions that lent itself to my desire. I didn't freak out about hows. And sometimes you do need guidance, right? I'm not saying you can't ever look for guidance, but I didn't freak out about how am I going to do this and that, get in my head about it. And I was like, I'm just going to allow whatever happens to happen. I'm going to see how I feel. And that certainly set me in the right trajectory. I kind of got rid of that self-sabotage. My emotions is what really changed. So every day when I ate healthy and I felt good, I recognized that emotionally I was more vibrant, happier. I felt more in flow. And so that's what's really important, is feeling into those emotions. When I was eating poorly, making poor choices, drinking too much, I was not feeling so hot. I was feeling lethargic. And sometimes it's hard in the moment, right? We want the piece of chocolate because immediately it makes you feel good. But hours later, there's probably a disconnect. And that's not that you don't ever have a piece of chocolate. Let me be clear. But you have to make sure when you eat that, you're not going to feel the guilt around it. Because when you feel guilt, guilt is a sign of resistance. It's a sign of not allowing. And it puts you in the space where you can only see the negative. You can only see the problems. When I say negative, it's like the things you don't want. It doesn't mean it's bad or good, but it's the things that you don't want. And so you need to focus on the desire and the emotions around the desire. And we're not trying to control the hows. We let intuition flow in. We even ask the universe for guidance. We ask for that help to be able to say, okay, I am feeling this resistance. Please lead me in the right direction. And I promise you something will come up for you. Maybe you weren't even expecting it, because that's the first step in allowing. If you believe that you will be guided in the right direction intuitively or energetically speaking, and you can get your head around even that littlest piece, then you're going to be able to make the shifts that you want. And so I firmly believe this practice throughout your health journey. And there's some trust and surrender. And at the end of the day, and that is what I'm always working towards, is that surrender. That, okay, I'm handing this over to something greater than me. I'm trusting that the answer will come. I'm not organizing my entire life and controlling every tidbit of it, because that is not allowing. And the chances of you staying in that high-vibing state for long are slim. So there's some element of action, and there's an element of rest and self-care. And that element comes in all the things that I teach in my teaching. So it's Ayurvedically and yoga based. And I'm not saying everything I teach is like 100%, yes, this is what you have to do. I'm very much a believer in finding what works for you, but trying like the basic changes in order to manifest what you want. So if it's a healthy body, that encompasses a lot of things. That could be weight. It could be exercise. It could be just energy, right? It could be wanting to age well. And as I reach closer and closer to 50, and menopause, now that I'm having these hot flashes, and I'm working on, what I want to say, holistically working through the hot flashes. But as I'm shifting in my age, I'm noticing different things in my body. I'm shifting what I'm doing to be in flow. And I'm not holding on to these old thoughts and limiting beliefs and old stories. And there's still things, we're always going to be working through things, right? That's life. That's the process. But as we work through these things, we find the enjoyment and the flow and the gratitude and love along the way. And we let go a little bit. And we surrender just a little bit. It doesn't mean you don't take action. It doesn't mean you give up. That's not surrender in this sense. Surrender is trusting in something greater than yourself. And even if you are not a spiritual person, obviously I'm speaking probably to spiritual people that are listening to this podcast, but even if you're not a spiritual person, having a little bit of faith and trust in something greater than your own mind is incredibly important. Because if you can't do that, you're never going to release these limiting beliefs. And I firmly believe that. You're going to be stuck in the old stories. You're going to be stuck in your head. And that's what perpetuates a lot of these beliefs throughout our culture, is not having a little bit of trust and faith in just that things will work out. In your higher self, in your energy, and deep down inside, if we can get out of our heads for a minute and go down into our hearts, we know that that's true. We know there's something greater than us out there. If we were the greatest thing in the world, we wouldn't need help because we would know it all, right? we would be able to use our heads to solve any problem. And yes, our heads can solve a lot of problems, but it's the heart that brings the desire. When people invent new things and they want to experience new things, it's the heart that's the desire, and they're believing that they can do it. That's why it's a progression in life, right? We don't go from Stone Age to iPhones in 10 years because it takes this natural progression of believing and knowing that you can achieve this next step. It's a process. In my coaching, we use the word Kaizen a lot. And that's this idea of slow, continuous improvement. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the 1%. You keep doing the 1% and the 1%, and gradually that builds up, right? Those small little changes make a difference. It's the same with your belief system. The small incremental changes in your belief can make a difference in your results. And it's also detaching somewhat from those results. You put the desire out there. You know, I can sit here and go, yes, I want $1 million. And I feel so joyful when I think about having that money in my bank account because it would relieve some stress. I mean, it's not the answer to everything, by the way. I'm just making this as an example. It would relieve some stress in the moment for me, as long as I worked through my money blocks. Now, if I haven't, that stress is going to come right back. But it's the same with the weight. Losing a few pounds feels good. And I achieved that thing. And I know if I want to keep going, I can keep going. I can go for another 2 pounds. And yes, I can believe that. But I have to start making the choices that are aligned with that belief. I can't just say, I want to be a doctor and do nothing and expect that to happen. Now you might say, I want to be a doctor. I don't have the money for medical school. So there's the flip side of the coin, right? So it's good to recognize the lack as a point of recognition, but then you start to tell yourself different stories. Well, how could I maybe work around this? What are my opportunities? Maybe I start exploring some things. Maybe I ask the universe for a little bit of help here. And then avenues will start to open up. As long as you're grounded in your why and they're focused on the desire and the feeling that you receive with this desire, that's going to get you to the next step. It's the feeling good in your body, that high vibration, and you're making those steps. So in my coaching, I mentioned some of the things that we do. Really simple one that we do. First habit is earlier, lighter dinner. And you might be like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. What does this have to do with manifesting? And technically the first core competency is identity evolution, which is what I talk about all the time. It's believing that you're this next version of you, or you can be this next version of you. All right. So it's that belief. And even if that next version is somebody that's 3 pounds lighter, awesome. If you believe you can do it, it's going to happen. If you feel that resistance and you start focusing on the lack and the negative emotions, it's not going to happen. So you have to find ways to bring yourself back. You have to find ways to pivot and often just start thinking about all the good things. Well, what if What if this were to happen? What if I made a plan to eat my food next week? And what if I took out all the snacks I eat? And what if I could go on a bike ride one day this week? And what if I go on a walk every night after dinner? And you start to play this what if game and you're like, I would feel so good. I would feel like I did something good for me. Wow, I would be prioritizing my self-care. This feels amazing. And that's what you want to do. You want to start pivoting and playing this what if game anytime you're in this negative lack scarcity mindset. So you're releasing a little bit, but then you're starting to take aligned action. And maybe you feel a little excitement, like, gosh, I used to, play volleyball when I was in high school. Making that up. What if I went and just asked a friend to come hit the ball with me and I go out and buy a volleyball? Or, I don't know, like just something that lights you up. That feels exciting. Like it's beautiful weather today and I took the dog out and I was like, oh, I'm so grateful for this weather. I'm so happy I'm here this morning to be able to go out in the morning and enjoy this weather. And then I was like, oh, I would love to take a bike ride. Now I don't have time today, but what if I plan a bike ride one morning this weekend? And maybe the next day that it's really beautiful weather, I'll be able to get out. Or what if I come home from work and I do a little bike ride after dinner? Oh, that sounds really good. So yes, I need to get my bike cleaned up and air in the tires. So there's some work to do there, which is always the resistance, right? So if I don't get to ride the bike tonight, maybe I just go down there and wheel it into the garage and put some air in the tires, right? Maybe I'll clean it up even. But if that's too much, okay, I'm just going to wheel it into the garage today. Done. Tomorrow I can put air in the tires. Next day I can clean it up. Eventually I'll get to the point where I'm going to ride the bike, right? So it's those teeny tiny little incremental things. And I might need a reminder. In fact, I'll probably put one in my phone if I want to take a bike ride tonight, just so I don't forget, put bike in the garage. Because right now it's in the basement. So it's finding those little things that inspire you and get you excited to do the self-care actions, to do earlier, lighter dinner. And we go over like why you want to do this. What you feel better, you have more time in the evening. You don't go to bed feeling lethargic and heavy, and it doesn't interrupt your sleep, and your body can digest the food easier. Like there's a lot of reasons to do earlier, lighter dinner. And that's, step one, like I said, when it comes to changing some of our habits after the mindset shift. But then you start to tune in, wow, I feel really good in my body when I do this. And if I don't do it, I feel out of alignment and out of integrity, and I can feel the flip side. So we want to pivot, play the what if game. So maybe you couldn't do earlier, lighter dinner, you had to work late. But what if tomorrow I have everything prepared in advance and I make sure I don't work late because I don't have any late meetings. I make sure I leave on time, or maybe even a little early because I worked late tonight. And then I go home and I enjoy my light dinner, and then I go on a walk or bike ride and I enjoy my evening, and I do things that are fun. I get outside or I play games with the kids or whatever it is, and find those little things that light you up and make you feel like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I'm in integrity. I feel great emotionally. And I might get out of integrity over here to do this one night, but I know now that I'm out of integrity. If I sit down and watch television without doing the other things first, like the fun things, guess what's not happening? I'm sucked in and I'm tired and I'm on the couch. So now I know how that feels. And then tomorrow I can be like, oh, that didn't really feel good for me. I was really tired. And yes, maybe my nervous system needed to soothe itself a little bit, but I need to not go into that room and sit down and watch TV. I can sit somewhere else and relax for a few minutes. I can even rest on the bed for a few minutes. That actually feels really nice. So you find other things to do to honor how you're feeling. But you don't do the same thing again, right? If we know when we do the same things again and again and again, we're not going to get results. And that's true anywhere in our life. We have to find new ways of doing things. All right, so I hope this podcast inspired you today. I hope that you are going to start the law of attraction and allowing into your life. And just notice how you feel and do something really small. So I did this online little mini course with Mike Dooley. And day 2 of the challenge was spotting blue trucks. And so the goal was to manifest blue trucks. And so when I drove down the road and back. And I might have talked about this last week, so forgive me if I did, but, I didn't drive that far, and I made a couple stops, and I think I spotted, like, by the end of the day, maybe 7 or 8 blue trucks. And I was so excited by the blue trucks. All right, so find something that feels believable, because we can all go out and spot blue trucks, but it's so light and joyful and so much fun. So when you are playing with this idea of manifesting, maybe it's like 1 pound, if that weight is really what you're holding on to. Or maybe it's like, I'm going to add in some vegetables today into my lunch, which doesn't sound like you're manifesting anything, but see what happens. I'm going to eat my veggies first and then see what happens. See how it feels. Is it joyful and fun for you? And if not, pick something different. Do something different. I'm going to manifest, 3 bluebirds today. You don't have to be specific, just bluebirds. And then go on a walk and see how many bluebirds you can spot. I do that with crows all the time. Crow is my spirit animal. There was a crow outside today. And now every time I see a crow, I smile. I do it with my numbers all the time. And numbers will go in cycles for me. So I always ask to see angel numbers. And 4s have been coming up like crazy for the last 2 weeks. Every day I'm seeing a 444. I'm like, and then I just smile. And like those little things, like I manifested that. That makes me feel so amazing and so good. So think about those little joyful things. It used to be feathers for me on all my walks. I was like, I want to see a feather. I haven't done it in a while, but maybe I'll come back to the feathers, right? And it has to be something that you truly get excited about. If you just say, oh, I want to see blue trucks and you don't really care, it's not fun anymore, right? Maybe it becomes fun if you start to see them, but find things that are so interesting and exciting for you and start to see that power of creation that you have. And I promise you it will happen. Okay, I'm signing off. Have a wonderful day, everybody. If you want to learn more about me, please head over to my website, litlotus.me. Feel free to send me a message. You can join me live on Insight Timer Friday mornings, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for yoga. So please go download Insight Timer. It is a free, wonderful app if you don't have it. For meditation, there's so many teachers on there that do classes, as not just yoga, but a lot of different classes on there, little lectures and things like that. So I highly encourage you to be on there. And you can also go over to YouTube to Lit Lotus Wellbeing, and you can see me there. And all my classes are recorded and posted on YouTube after the fact. All right. Have a wonderful day. Sending you all so much love. Namaste.